Let me say a pleasant good evening to PSA's second Vice President, Avinash Maharajh. Pleasant good evening, comrade.
Good night to you, Mikee K. Good night to your viewership worldwide.
Thank you. Thank you so much for weighing in on this. And of course, I know you were, I hope you were listening to Senator Wade Mark weigh in on what's happening. And
if you permit me, Mikee K,
sure.
I mean, I as a union leader in the PSA, we have workers who are impacted. I want to at least state, I mean, the discussion was with respect to labor participation rate and the national insurance. And let me say this, these are trends that we have noticed from the union. And one of the contributory factors to these things, in terms of the depressed labor participation rate, and we're saying it, and I'm saying it clearly, is depressed wages, Mikee K. And we are, of course, in consultation and negotiations with the union, who have, with the government, who has frustrated the process, taken the matter to the courts. But depressed wages, depressed minimum wages, where you have workers who are working and toiling from dusk till dawn, still unable to make ends meet, put food on the table, take care of their families. Of course, there will be lots of people who then be gravitated to the informal sector, because working in the formal sector does not give them the means to survive. I just wanted to put that out here. I know our context for the discussion is a little bit different tonight, but I just wanted to weigh in on that briefly.
No, but Mr. Maharajh, I'm glad that you weighed in on that, because I did make a statement. I mean, you have economists saying that, listen, the middle class has been wiped out. I mean, this is serious. I mean, yes. It seems as though we're being punished for striving and trying to, expand, whether it be entrepreneur skills or whatever the case may be. But at the end of it all, where does the government meet us at this point? I mean, the pandemic is over. And this was taking place even prior to the pandemic. But where do we meet? Because there's a lot of taking, but when does this start to give? And so far for the last 8 years, and I want to put you on the spot, has this administration come across to you as being labor-friendly?
It is absolutely not labor-friendly. It's antithetical to labor. In fact, the direction that of this government seems to be that the intention is to bust all unions. And we are the PSA here. We are clear that the government is coming after us as a union, that we are under full frontal attack on all fronts, and that the intention is to destroy the PSA. And that is clear. I mean, we look at what is going on in WASA, with the restructuring of WASA, where they intend not to have any union representation. There is now an intention to restructure HGC, to remove the PSA from representing these workers. And it's throughout the public service, everywhere that the PSA have workers that we represent, those entities are under attack. Like the CSO, moving to a National Statistical Institute, Cooperative Division under the Ministry of Youth Development and Sport. They move into a cooperative authority. And now we have here the TTRA, where the intention is that these workers move into this organization without any union representation. It is clear in our mind, and the PSA is quite cognizant of the fact that this government is coming after us, and the intention is to bust unions and get rid of organized labor in this country.
Yeah, but since when has the unions become a liability to our society?
Unions could never have been a liability to our society. Unions is always one of the strengths of any democracy. We are a countervailing force against governments, against employers doing what they want against workers. And maybe that is the intention why they want to get rid of the unions, get rid of the PSA.
Yeah, because let's be honest here.
They want to exert a level of control over the working class.
Well, exactly.
Able to control them and revert things to back how things were back in the slavery days.
Yeah, but not only that, Mr. Maharajh, but it's a lot more attractive if you have to sell off the entity to someone in the private sector. They don't need the union. The union is somewhat of a hindrance, where in fact there are too many questions asked, their representation, and once you get rid of that and it's viewed as a liability, it becomes more attractive for those who may have a special interest in many of these enterprises.
That is precisely it, Mikee K. They do not want unions to bargain on behalf of workers. They want to get rid of collective bargaining. Workers must only be viewed as a factor of production, a cost factor on our balance sheet or on our income statement. And that is what they essentially want. And if we could reduce the cost of labor and increase profits to the 1%ers and the ruling class and the business class, that is their intention. With no concern as to whether the workers could afford to put food on the table or take care of their children.
Now, the PSA is looked at upon as perhaps the last bastion of any sort of strength where the unions are concerned. I mean, whether it be the 4% saying outright not accepting it, and also with the TTRA, the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority. What is the main issue with the TTRA? Because when you look at it, it's not even the silhouette of the politics playing out. It seems to be bold, in-your-face political control. And is that the major issue? If so, and what else?
So that is one of the issues. That is one of the critical issues. I want to say, before we get into the TTRA, I have to make special mention of one person. This is Miss Teresa Dory, who is our champion in this matter. She is actually taking on the government in this constitutional motion that we have against the TTRA. And I must pay kudos to her. This is a real-life David and Goliath situation, Mikee K. And I must commend her for her efforts and bravery, and we must recognize the contributions that she has made. And we anticipate that she is going to be enshrined in the history and the annals of this country as having taken on a government and thwarted the efforts of a government to take control, political control over tax collection and border control and enforcement in this country. And that brings me to the point, and back to the point that you were making, Mikee K, with respect to with this TTRA. The PSA, through Ms. Dory, has challenged the constitutionality of this revenue authority. And I want people to throw their minds back. The TTRA is not something that has happened only recently, within the last 2-3 years. This is something that this particular administration, this government, has tried to implement from decades ago. This TTRA discussion has happened since the 2000s. This was on the books for implementation since the early 2000s. There was an incarnation in 2007, then in 2009, where we defeated it through the sheer force of the workers. It then resurfaced. There was a change in government. The People Partnership came in 2010 up till 2015. There was no talk or anything resembling a TTRA even being considered. And then with the change in administration, we now have a government that was then hell-bent on ensuring that the Revenue Authority then come into force during this particular term. They brought it to Parliament on several occasions, and it was thwarted because they were unable to get the requisite votes, to special majority votes, because they know that it was impacted on the constitutionality. Suddenly, we have legal luminaries, and I say this maybe with some level of sarcasm, Mr. Al-Rawi and Reginald Amor, SC, who have magically found a way to get this manufactured away or wrapped away to get this passed in the Parliament. And we believe that it was not constitutional, the mechanism that was used to get this passed. Nevertheless, that was done. It was passed in last year, 2022. Yeah. Certain acts, certain sections of the act was passed, proclaimed. And upon proclamation, we immediately filed a constitutional motion challenging it through our legal team. I need to big up my legal team as well. Freedom Chambers, led by Mr. Anand Ram Logan, Senior Counsel. We will file a constitutional motion challenging that. The matter was set to be heard in 2023, early 2023. But when the President, Christine Kangaloo, would have proclaimed Section 18 of the Act, that is when things kicked into high gear for us. because Section 18 of the Act directly impacted the workers who are our members. I'm talking about 2,175 workers of the Board of Inland Revenue and Customs and Excise Division. This is a large number of persons. 2,175 persons are going to be impacted. Their employment is going to be impacted. And it's upon that proclamation that the PSA Trade Legal Team would have filed an injunction to stop the implementation of the TJRA until at least that the constitutional motion was heard. Well, the state challenged it all ends. Injunction was challenged. Yes, we got defeated at the High Court. There was a majority decision, so it was split at the Court of Appeal. And then Mr. Imbert, the Minister of Finance, would have determined here what? We don't need to go to the Privy Council. He's going to extend the time frame or the deadline to November of this year so that the actual constitutional motion could be heard. This matter was heard before Mr. Weston and James on the 17th of November of this year. He did not rule in our favor, but we have filed an application of appeal, and of course, the Minister of Finance, facing, I would say, an injunction to prevent it from being implemented by November 30th, would have further extended the time of its implementation until
he has.
the end of February next year.
And of course,
when the Court of Appeal could, of course, hear the matter and make a determination.
And of course, the PSA has called on them to respect the rights of workers and to do the decent and honorable thing. And you're so correct. And you have all right to be concerned about this, because when you look at it, there's just too much power in the hands of a politician when it comes to the labor force and the rights of workers in this country. Just too much. Comrade, I want to thank you so much, for linking with us here this evening. Of course, I'll be calling you periodically, and we have some other issues that we need to bring up. And, I mean, people are just simply asking, where do we go from here? What's going to happen to our labor force? Why is it that they're going to be made to be so vulnerable and to be at the mercy of the political component? I want to thank you so much again.
You're welcome, Mikee K, and good night to you and your viewership.
Thank you. Yes, folks, and that was PSA's second Vice President, Avinash Maharajh, weighing in on the issue. And, again, so much is taking place when it comes to the issues here.